Mark Zuckerberg is sucking up to President Trump. So before I get into that, here's a little flashback to when I had Kash Patel on the Alec show talking about Mark Zuckerberg and who he truly is. This is just prior to the election.
Zuckerberg is a fraud, pretending to care about American democracy and the election. This guy spent $400 million last election cycle, and I don't care what he says, he is going to spend money somehow, some way in this election cycle. And let's put that aside. He owns one of the largest social media companies on earth in Facebook, Meta, and Instagram. I didn't hear the CEO and owner, Mark Zuckerberg, come out and say, I guarantee you my companies will not participate in censorship at the behest of the FBI or anyone else in the federal government, like we did in the last two elections, like we did with Hunter Biden's laptop, like we did with the 51 Intel letter. He could have said that, but he didn't because he wants it to happen. And as a sort of proactive, preemptive move to say, oh, I told you so, he came out to the media and said, oh, my bad, I'm sorry. But it doesn't matter to these guys because they're going to go past November 5th. And if they get their way and Harris is awarded the victory, they're just going to be like, nothing to see here. And if Donald Trump wins, they'll come back and say, see, our companies tried to comply. But it's BS. And Zuckerberg is the biggest fraud in big business.
Zuckerberg is a fraud. Now, we've seen he was dining at Mar-A-Lago with President Trump. He requested that meeting with President Trump. That was verified by Stephen Miller. And so we know that Zuckerberg was there trying to suck up to President Donald Trump. We will never forget what Zuckerberg did during the last election cycle. And Kash Patel is 100% right. This is the way he was going to play it. So if Kamala Harris was to somehow pull off this huge, big upset, which was now we know too big to rig, he would just be able to go, okay, nothing happens. It's business as usual. We're good to go. But now that Trump won, it has to be, oh, look, see, I didn't do anything to harm your presidency this time. I'm on your side. I'm an ally. This guy is a fraud and a phony. We will never forget, and I know many of you listening right now have been put in Facebook jail, have been censored on Facebook, have not been allowed to share content. I know it's just speaking from myself. This clip that you just saw from Kash Patel, I was not able to play on Facebook because for some reason I was put in the Facebook jail. Can you imagine why? We are sick and tired of being told what we are allowed to say and what we're not allowed to say by people like Mark Zuckerberg. This is why everyone has flocked over to X, and now X has become the number one news source in the world because people are able to have the information flow freely over there. Zuckerberg didn't allow that. We know what happened during the pandemic, and that is what changed everything for people. And don't ever think it didn't. It woke people up like Joe Rogan. It woke people up like the average day American who were told they were no longer essential. Your job is unessential. You got to stay home. You can't go to work. You can't support your family. And if you want to go back to your job, you got to get vaccinated or you're fired. People will never forget what happened. And if you tried to share a story on Facebook about maybe somebody that took the vaccine and dropped dead, your account got locked down and shut down. You were not allowed to talk about it because anything to do with that was banned and forbidden. You're not allowed to speak about it. It's called misinformation and disinformation. They controlled it. And Mark Zuckerberg worked together with the feds during the 2020 election to stuff the stories down about the Hunter Biden laptop so that it could not be out there, which they had the 51 intelligence officers. It was all hands on deck to stop that story from going around because they knew it was true and they knew how damaging it was going to be to their election cycle in 2020. But despite all of that, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, this entire thing blew up in their face because had Trump won in 2020 and they didn't get in his way and stop this thing, He would have had Democrats would have had the House, they would have had the Senate, and they would have continued to stop Trump at every turn. They would have impeached him 10 more times by now, and his presidency would be over, and not much more could have gotten accomplished. But now he's going in there with the House and the Senate, and he's wise to these people that stabbed him in the back, and he is wise now to what they have done to him. And he is coming back, and we're going to call this with accountability, but you can call it retribution or revenge. He is coming back, and he knows exactly who wronged him, and he's going to be. Now, keep your enemies close is what I think the scenario is here for Trump with Zuckerberg. But never trust this guy. This guy is a fraud, and he is in there to undermine President Trump. You cannot put your trust in somebody like Mark Zuckerberg. So he's down there now playing nice with Trump. And, of course, the left-wing media is all worried about not worried about Zuckerberg at all. That's okay that he's down there trying to kiss ass. They're worried about Elon Musk. He's the threat. Oh, my God, Elon Musk is having Thanksgiving dinner with Donald Trump. Did a whole video about that, too. But All I'm saying is I think Kash Patel is 100% right about Mark Zuckerberg. This guy is not to be trusted. He is a fraud, and I think Kash Patel should be the director of the FBI, and I'm hoping that that announcement will come as soon as possible because he's somebody that's in there that will destroy these government gangsters and not allow people like Mark Zuckerberg to get too close to President Donald Trump.
You're listening to the Alec Show. The future is family.